The regular board meeting of the Governing Board of Trustees of Romoland School District is called to order at 5:31 p.m. Roll call, Mr. Geary,
Here.
Mrs. Kleitz will be joining us later. Mr. Reller,
Here.
Mr. Sperry,
Here.
and myself are present. Public comment. Do we have any comments for closed session?
No, we do not.
Okay. Closed session is called at 5:32 p.m. to discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release, negotiations, and superintendent evaluation.
Hi, Mr. Murray.
I'm just scanning to make sure everyone's here. Let's see. I see you four. We've got Mr. Reller, Mr. Sperry in the vacant chair, and nobody else as of yet from the board. So maybe everyone's on a break right now until.
Hey, Carol.
Hello, Mr. Veller. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, Michelle, John, and Nikki. Hey, Nikki, did you register me for that CSBA thing, or did you get my confirmation too?
I believe I got your confirmation. I had not registered you for anything.
Hey, just a reminder, everybody, we're still streaming and recording right now.
Hi, everybody.
Vince, I'm having trouble making my screen a little shorter. It's taking up everything. Oh, never mind. I found something. Oh, no, that's not right.
We got Gary, Mr. Sperry. I think we're just waiting for Mr. Sperry. It looks like every other board member is present. Vince, will you give
I see everybody.
a cue when we're ready to go?
We'll do. I think we're good. Just waiting for Mr. Sperry. Otherwise, we're good to go.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there they are. Aha. I got everybody.
Okay, we're good whenever you're ready.
Miss Moon, it's your, we'll turn it over to you, Miss Moon.
Thank you. Okay. The regular board meeting of the Romoland School District reconvenes at 6:32. Manny, was there any action in closed session?
No action taken.
Okay, then we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and all start. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
liberty and justice for all. I'm going to review our governance norms. We agree to act with dignity, respect differences, build trust, work as a team, engage the public, and focus on the success of every student, and work together for the common good. Communications for Governing Board of Trustee reports, Mr. Aguirre. Mr. Aguirre,
Yes.
anything to report?
Oh, no, nothing to report.
Okay. Mrs. Clydes?
Yeah, I just would like Mr. Payton or Miss Weiss to comment if they happen to know. But I really am really proud of that. Once again, Romoland seems to shine at Heritage High School with valedictorian and salutatorian. So that's something I think as a board and as a district, we should be extremely proud of. I wish there was a way we could honor these students, right? So I'm going to leave that up to Mrs. Weiss and Mr. Payton there to maybe come up with an idea about putting them on the school site, website, district site, whatever we can do. Extremely proud, and it just shows the hard work that our staff has done, and the parents need to be complimented. And I just want to do a shout out to all the teachers and all the staff members for the extremely hard work that they've been doing for the distance learning. We know that doesn't come easy. We're proud of our parents and our guardians and our caretakers as well, to help with that distance learning. These are challenging times, but once again, I believe in my heart, Romoland is rising above all. So just keep up the good work. We're extremely proud of our district.
Thank you, Marla. Couldn't have said it better. Mr. Reller.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Moon. I want to give a thank you to staff. Trevor, your Friday communication corners from all departments have been very, very informative. Love the report out of weekly meals, the distance learning, the how many hotspots we got out, how many Chromebooks are being checked out. That continual data is good for me as an individual board member to have a better understanding of what we're doing with respect to school shutdowns. Also want to report to the board that today I was in a Zoom meeting with Assemblyman Chad Mays, and from my role as delegate in the delegate assembly. And we talked about 4 specific areas: distance learning, meal service, special education, and childcare. And of course, we talked about the budget. We all were very concerned about the state of the budget in the upcoming fiscal year, 2021. My 2 main concerns that I brought up to him that he needs to work on is 1, deferrals. We don't want deferrals. We understand that the budget is going to not look very good, but when we have to work through deferrals, that is very, very difficult on school districts. And also I discussed with him the need to strengthen our infrastructure in the state of California with respect to connectivity, so students have access to through distance learning, because that's what I see as the biggest component of the access barrier is students having internet service. We've got them the Chromebook and whatever they need. It's just having that internet at home, and we even give them the access points as well, but there's always that gap. But if something came to our community that ensured everyone had Wi-Fi access, that would solve a lot of our roadblocks that we have to have effective distance learning and guaranteed access to our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reller. Mr. Sperry.
I have no comments.
Okay. And then myself, I want to piggyback on what Mrs. Kleitz and Mr. Reller had stated and all the great things that Romoland is doing, and to truly thank all the teachers, faculty, the administration, our superintendent. The communication has been terrific. Everybody has worked so hard. It's nice that so many committees are being put together to address how we can better serve our students. And I just truly appreciate all the time and the communication that you share with us to keep us updated. Mr. Payton, your superintendent report.
Thank you, Ms. Moon. Just want to recognize that this is the week that we typically do Staff Appreciation Week in Romoland. We know last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and next week is Classified Appreciation Week. We like to do it the week in between so we can celebrate everybody together. And and of course, we're having to get a little bit creative on how we show our appreciation because we're all not in the same locations this year. But we're doing that. And I just want our staff to know that we appreciate them every day of the year, but in particular, these last few weeks with the challenges we've had. I couldn't be happier to support them and their supportive students as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention was last week we started the formation of several committees, of which we have administrators, certificated and classified staff participating, and those committees are very positive, and everyone is approaching it in a solution-oriented mindset in these challenging times, which is very much appreciated. And we recognize that the more brains trying to tackle a problem, the better the result. And so we're still in those committees, and they're still working, and they will be working from now until who knows, until school starts, depending upon their topic. But it's been a great experience despite the challenges we're currently facing, and I hope that spirited collaboration continues. And I will add that that's 4 years running for the valedictorian at Heritage High from Romoland School District. So that's good news.
That's amazing news. Okay. Nikki, is there any public comments?
No, there are not.
Okay. And employee association reports. Do we have any association reports, Mr. Murray?
We do not.
Okay. Then information items. J1, budget update. Mrs. Cole to present this item.
Well, good evening, board. Before I start sharing my information, I wanted to thank Mr. Reller for being our voice regarding deferrals. I really do appreciate you representing us that way. Now on to my budget update. So almost every day, we're receiving updates from various agencies regarding the fiscal implications of COVID-19 and the potential effects on the 2021 budget, and of course, even beyond. And this is for the state as well as for school districts. There are still so many unknowns, but every update really does help create a better understanding in what we're facing, and they're beginning to quantify the loss. So it's very helpful to get these updates on a regular basis, and you're probably receiving the same sorts of updates. Of course, we know at this point specifics likely won't be known until at the earliest August, and that's because the personal income tax due date has been delayed. So in the meantime, we still have to develop a budget for the 2021 fiscal year. And of course, we have to use our best available information. It's good that we have a May revise coming up on Thursday of this week, and then School Services presents a workshop next week. Both of those are very informative. They help inform us as to what needs to go into our budget and the kinds of things we need to anticipate. Of course, you as a board will be approving our budget in June, but it is highly probable that we will be coming back to you in the fall and then again in December to provide updated budgets as the state's revenue picture becomes a little bit clearer after August. But in the meantime, I'm just going to state a few facts. Some of these are a little bit obvious and apparent, but I think they're worth stating at this time. Of course, we know the state is in a deep economic recession, and the uncertainties just swirl around how long this is going to last, what the bottom line impact is going to be to revenues, and how much federal aid we can expect and anticipate. We receive projections and analysis from two major agencies. One of those is the Department of Finance, and the other is the Legislative Analyst Office. They don't really come to the same conclusions when they analyze the data. The LAO is slightly more optimistic than the Department of Finance, but neither of them paints a rosy picture. The LAO projects that the revenues will decline by about 32 billion in the upcoming year. And the DOF is predicting a shortfall of about $54 billion. Of course, both agencies compare this recession to the recession in 2008. But it's just so much deeper, so much more severe than what we even experienced in 2008. Sure, you've all heard reference to two types of recoveries. One is the U-shaped recovery it is a little bit more optimistic. It indicates a little bit quicker recovery. And then there's the L-shaped recovery, which is more prolonged. And of course, at this point, we really don't know which of those two we might be experiencing. But in the meantime, what are we doing as a district? Of course, we're working to develop our 2021 budget, doing all in our power to get that together so that we can present it to you in June. But simultaneously, we have also developed 3 budget models using various COLA percentages just to help us anticipate what the impact might be dependent on the COLA so that we can start those conversations and start developing responses based on the impact of COVID-19. And of course, as further updates become available, we'll keep the board apprised of any new information. But that is it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I did have a question. Are we able to recoup or request any monies from the CARES Act to help offset some of this?
Yes, yes, we will be receiving about $500,000. You know, that is federal money that's dispersed to the states, and then the states disperse it to the school districts based on an allocation formula. We don't know when we're going to be getting that money. I think it's fairly likely that it will be after the start of the new fiscal year. And whenever it's received, it will be reflected in the budget. We have, in the meantime, we have received about $60,000 from the state from what's called the Senate Bill 117 to help us offset our initial expenses associated with COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved in one motion. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Murray on the classified personnel order.
Sure.
Mr. Murray, can you tell us a little bit about the replacement lead custodian at Chase?
Well, Raina Morgan's been a custodian on campus for a while now. So she's been in an 8-hour custodial working in the evenings. But she was recently selected as the new lead custodian. And she's already started the position, and I think it's going to work out well for the district. So I'm very pleased that we promoted her.
Good. The reason why I asked that, I'm very happy to see us continuing our promoting from within. That's really good to hear. Also, I think very important to see that we have value our data quality technicians, because the data quality technicians have a large impact on Carol's office to ensure that our data is correct, to ensure that we get all the money that we are due. So I would assume that is the person that handles all our CalPad stuff and all that good stuff. Is that right, Mr. Murray?
Yes, you are correct. In fact, she's even getting kind of into my realm in HR. So she's doing more and more with credentials as well. So the scope of her work has increased dramatically over the last few years.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other discussion? Okay, then we're going to vote. All in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. We're going to move on now to the action items. We have L1, Resolution Number 14, 2019-2020. Resolution authorizing the temporary transfer of monies held in any fund or account to another fund or account of the district for payment of obligations for the 2021 fiscal year. Mrs. Cole to explain this item.
Sure. So this is an annual resolution. This, if you approve the resolution, this authorizes us to make transfers between funds if it's necessary. These are temporary transfers and they all have to be repaid by the end of the fiscal year. And again, it is something that we present to you annually.
Thank you. Do any board members have any comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and Mrs. Moon, aye. Next action item is L2, Resolution Number 15, 2019-2020. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District declaring its intention to establish Community Facilities District Number 2020-1, Watson/Branson of the Romoland School District, to authorize the levy of special taxes within the proposed district and approving other actions related thereto. Mrs. Cole to explain.
Sure. So what I'd like to do is place L2 and L3 together because they're really, you can vote on them separately, but I'd like to explain them at the same time because they're associated with each other. So both of these resolutions are required to form a new CFD, and it's CFD 2020-1. L2 declares the district's intent to form the CFD, to establish the CFD, and L3 allows us to establishes the ability to incur bonded indebtedness.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do any board members have any comments or questions?
I just have a, I guess it's a question comment. Scott, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I mean, I think this is consistent with our most recent CFD formations that we've done. And just to confirm, people can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so, for example, we have a negotiated mitigation payment that relates to the size of the house that provides a substantial premium to the district for school fees. So for example, for this CFD, there's about 211 units. The average, the amount of mitigation to be paid for each unit within this CFD exceeds $11,000. If there were no CFD and they were just paying level 2 fees at building permit, that fee per unit would be about, call it $6,754. So, that's a premium of, say, 11,103 divided by, so it's about 150% premium on what would otherwise be the fee that the school district would otherwise collect. we also have once bonds are issued. That doesn't include once bonds are issued, there's also surplus revenues that flow from the CFD to the district that are available to pay for school facilities on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Thank you.
Do any other board members have any comments or questions?
Just a quick question for Scott. Why, first, actually two questions. Where's Branson and Watson? Is that near you, Miss Kleitz?
It's across the street, Mr. Reller.
Oh,
Yeah, if you were,
cool.
Yeah. So you know where I live, so it's across the street.
Okay. Because I was looking at my attachment. I didn't see the map come up. Maybe it's just taking a while to pop up. Why does someone come to us versus Paris Union High School District to open up a CFD?
Make sure I've got my mic off. The proportion of facilities that are needed to be funded by Romoland are a much greater proportion than Paris Union High School. So, for example, if you combined what a developer paid for their Romoland fee with their Paris Union High School District fee, Romoland is 72% of both fees and Paris is only 28%.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other board members have any comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Next is L3, Resolution number 16, 2019-2020. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District declaring its intention to incur bonded indebtedness within the Community Facilities District number 2020-1 Watson/Branson of the Romoland School District. Ms. Cole already explained this item with L2. Do any board members have comments or questions regarding L3?
I'll make
Do
a
I
motion
hear-
to approve.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, aye. L4, Resolution number 17, 2019-20. A resolution of the Romoland School District Board of Trustees declaring intention to establish CFD number 2020-2 Country View of Romoland School District, IA numbers 1 and 2, authorize levy of special taxes within the proposed district, approving other related actions. Ms. Cole to explain this item.
Sure, we'll take these two together just like we did the other two. This is the formation of a second CFD, 2020-2. This is Country View CFD. And so L4 is to establish the CFD, and L5 is to declare our intention to incur bonded indebtedness.
Thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And all in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry, Mr. Sperry,
Oh, aye.
and Mrs. Moon, aye. L5, Resolution number 18, 2019, 2020, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District declaring its intention to incur bond indebtedness within improvement areas numbers 1 and 2 of Community Facilities District, number 2020-2, Country View of the Romoland School District. Ms. Cole had already explained this item. Do any board members have any comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion.
Do I have a second? And all in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. L6, request approval of pending change orders for the Romoland School District, District Office Expansion Project. Ms. Cole to explain.
Sure. So Cornerstone Construction Services was contracted to do all the work for the district office expansion. And these are 2 change orders that have occurred since we contracted with them. The first change order is for a little over $6,000, and this is for some slight increases for 4 different areas of the project. The second change order is for a negative $198,000. And this is to remove a large percentage of the project scope from Cornerstone and then contract it with, contracted out to other construction firms to complete the work.
Thank you. Do any board members have any comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. L7, Monument Ranch K-8 School, additional service request for PJHM for program changes and phasing. Ms. Cole to explain this item.
I'm sure the board will remember that we contracted with PJHM in November to dust off the architectural plans for the Monument Ranch School. And they actually are providing that service for us at a reduced cost of about $1.1 million. That's to get the plans ready to submit to CDE and DSA for approval. In the meantime, they've had meetings with multiple groups, and as a result, there have been some changes that have been requested that will require some architectural and engineering services from PJHM that were not included in the original contract that we set with them. So this is to pay an additional $150,000 for them to include these various items into the plans. And all the plans, any changes, all the plans are going to come back to the board for final approval prior to submitting to DSA, but this is actually to do the work to include these changes in the architectural plans.
Thank you, Mrs. Cole. Do any board members have comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And all in favor, Mr. Gary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. L8, Head Start and Early Head Start 2021 grant application. I'm going to call on Ms. Wise to explain this item.
This item we do annually at this time each year to decide if we want to continue to offer our preschool programs of Head Start and Early Head Start, those federal programs, as part of the umbrella organization, Riverside County Office of Ed, as our grantee. We are a delegate of that.
Thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, Mr. Geary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry.
Aye.
And myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. L9, declaration of the need for the 2021 school year. Mr. Murray to explain this item.
Yes, this is an annual declaration that allows for the hiring of certificated staff in difficult to fill positions who have emergency or intern credentials. For Romoland, that typically means special education instructors. So we're hoping to do this so we can kind of expand upon the labor pool for our district.
Perfect, thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor, Mr. Geary,
Aye.
Mrs. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. L10, memorandum of understanding the Romoland Teachers Association coronavirus response. Mr. Murray to explain this item.
This agreement with RTA formalizes district procedures related to our coronavirus response and how it impacts specifically the working conditions of our certificated staff who are represented by the Romoland Teachers Association.
Thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions? Do I have a
Yes,
motion?
I have a. That's okay.
Sorry, Mr. Reller.
This MOU is dated May 6th. We went into closures March 13th. What was a change of heart on a MOU need? Because it was one of the my talking points on our relationship with our certificated bargaining unit that we didn't need an MOU.
You know, I'm not entirely certain what the impetus was, but I do know that many districts in the area have come to agreements, and that might have increased RTA's desire to have an agreement as well. One thing it does is it puts into place basically what we were already doing. It didn't change any practices or procedures that we already had in place. It just put them in written form.
So it was RTA that approached the district and said, hey, we would like an MOU that says this.
They did.
Any other
Thank you.
board members have a comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I'll second.
And all in favor, Mr. Geary,
Aye.
Mrs. Clyde,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and myself, Mrs. Moon, aye. And information items 2, M1, update early childhood policies and procedures, subparts A, C, and D. Ms. Wise to explain.
Early childhood or preschool programs update their policies as needed, usually done annually at this time each year. And small changes just based on policy from federal and state guidance and county guidance as well. So next month, they'll be brought to you for approval on next month's board meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Wise. Okay, board member closing comments. Each member, Mr. Geary, any closing comments?
Nothing.
Mrs. Kleitz?
Stay safe.
Mr. Reller?
Mr. Payton, thank you for the motivational moment. And I now know I should have had drumsticks as a kid.
Mr. Sperry,
I have no comments.
and I have no comments. So our regular board meeting is adjourned at 7:09 PM.